Welcome to the channel with your friend Blessed Row. Southern cooking is the best, that's one thing we all know. Most comforting meals that everyone will love. Join Blessed Row, her cooking comes from the good heart. Recipes so good, you just might get hooked. Join now, Blessed Row Cooks.
If you have been looking for a delicious meatloaf recipe, you are in the right place. Thank you for joining me. Stay tuned for this delicious glazed meatloaf recipe. These are the ingredients that I'm going to be using for my meatloaf. I have some Italian seasoned breadcrumbs. I have 2 pounds of ground beef, a bell pepper, an onion, 2 large eggs, some black pepper, 2 garlic cloves, some Lipton onion soup mix, some Worcestershire sauce, some milk, and some ketchup. I will have the ingredients that I'm going to use for the glaze listed later. Today I'm going to be using my Prep Solutions onion chopper to chop my onion and my bell pepper. It chops them really small. I got a suggestion a couple of years ago from Angie with 2 forks to purchase this. And I also saw B Loves Life using a chopper like this on her channel. I am going to be using 1 cup of the Italian seasoned breadcrumbs. Now I'm opening my 2 1-pound packs of ground beef. And I'm going to crack my 2 large eggs. Next, I'm adding in 1 pack of the Lipton onion soup mix. I have my onion and bell pepper prepped so that I can put them into the chopper. So as you can see, I just cut them up into big chunks. Now I have my chopper out, and so I'm just putting them in 1 piece at a time and mash it down, and then they come through the other end and they are chopped into small pieces, which is really good when you're making a meatloaf. So that way I don't have to saute my vegetables first because they are in tiny little pieces and they get cooked perfectly when I cook the meatloaf. This chopper does work really, really good. I do like the size that it chopped the onions and the peppers into. I do recommend it if you want something to chop your vegetables really small and if you want it to be done quickly. I do recommend this. You do have to apply some force though when you're mashing it down. You know, you pushing it through those holes. So it's not like you're going to sit it down and they're going to go through. You have to push. Now I'm getting ready to mince my garlic cloves. You see my mincer, I really like it. It can slice the garlic and it also has a space where it can mince the garlic. So I'm mincing up these 2 garlic cloves. Just put them in and just mash it down and here you go. Minced garlic. If you don't have a mincer, you can just take your garlic and you can mince it up with the knife. Now I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. I'm going to go ahead and add in these beautiful finely diced onions and bell pepper. It was at this point that I'm looking at my bowl like, this bowl is getting full mighty quick. So I realized I had the wrong bowl. So I went and got my bigger bowl. And now, as you can see, I'm putting all of my ingredients in this bowl. And there's enough room for me to get my hand in there and mix up the meatloaf. After I mix it up a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and add in my ketchup. I'm going to go get my garlic powder, and I'm going to get my sheet pan. I'm adding in about a teaspoon of garlic powder. I'm going in with my bare hands, and I'm going to make sure that everything is thoroughly mixed.
Welcome to the channel with your friend Blessed Row. Southern cooking is the best, that's one thing we all know. Most comforting meals that everyone will love. Enjoy Blessed Row, her cooking comes from the good heart. Recipes.
Now that I have it mixed like I want it, I'm going to go ahead and put it on my sheet pan. I'm going to be free-forming this meatloaf. I have a sheet pan that I wrapped in aluminum foil, and I'm going to put my meat on it and shape it like a loaf. If you have a loaf pan that you want to use, go ahead and use that. Or if you have a meatloaf pan, use that. With this free-forming, you can make it as thin or as thick as you want. It's just how you want your meatloaf. I like using a sheet pan because one thing, I can put aluminum foil over the pan and it makes for easy cleanup. I also can shape the loaf as thin as I want to, or I can have it as thick as I want to. Also with the sheet pan, the loaf is not sitting in this grease, because as you'll see, when I cook the meat, the grease that is coming out is gonna be distributed in the pan, so it's not gonna be like a big pile of grease that the meat is sitting in. So that's one reason why I like using a big sheet pan for my meatloaf. But feel free to use whatever you want to use for your meatloaf. I'm cooking my meatloaf uncovered in the oven. I'm gonna put it in on 350 for 40 minutes. I'm going to take this little square pan and I'm putting some hot water in it. This pan is going to be in the oven on the rack underneath my meatloaf. It's going to be in there the entire time that I'm cooking my meatloaf. I'm doing this because I think that it's another way to help keep your meat moist. Now that I have my meatloaf in the oven, it is time for me to make my delicious glaze. To make my glaze, I use 1 cup of ketchup, 1/2 cup of brown sugar. I use a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of mustard, and a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. After the meatloaf cooked for about 40 minutes, I took it out of the oven. Then I put on this delicious glaze. I turned the oven up to 400 degrees. I put the meatloaf back in and I let it cook for another 15 minutes. The meatloaf is finished. Look at how good this meatloaf looks. I am telling you, this meatloaf was so delicious. You will not regret trying this recipe. Try this recipe and come back and let me know how you like it. This is a great meatloaf recipe. Let the meatloaf sit and rest for about 10 minutes before you slice it. You can also transfer it to another pan or a dish after it sits for about 10 minutes. If you want to see more videos of me cooking delicious meals and dishes, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now. And while you're at it, give me a thumbs up. Have a blessed and beautiful day. Don't forget to put God first in everything that you do.
Turn on your phone, turn on your laptop. We watching Blessed Row, Blessed Row.